I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of...
Hey amazing creatives, I'm glad to be sharing the process and steps I used in recreating this dress. And if you're watching this video right now, that means you're interested in learning. Welcome, thank you for joining me. This is going to be beginner friendly, trust me. And please go ahead and like this video. So you guys, let's get started. Now I'm going to be taking this in beats and in process, and the first thing I'll be doing is draft out a basic bodice with that. From there, we're going to create the pattern for the top part. We'll go ahead and slash and spread the cups and create the back pattern. Step 1, drafting out the basic bodice with that. So on my cutting table, I have my pattern here, and the first thing I'll be doing is ruling a starting line. And on that starting line, my shoulder measurement will be sitting there. So go ahead and rule out your starting line if you're doing this project right now. So this is going to be the shoulder line. And let's go ahead and divide our shoulder measurement by 2 and mark this down on this line. My shoulder measurement is 15 divided by 2 gives you 7.5 inches. So I'm marking that down on the starting line. Now, because my shoulder is slopey and not straight, I'll go ahead and drop my shoulder by 1 inch. Go ahead and do that because you don't have a straight shoulder. So from this point, go down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. I'll go ahead and connect the slope to the neckline like this. So please take the steps gradually if you're a beginner. Now the next thing for me to do is divide my round armhole by 2 and mark this down from the slope. My round armhole is 16 divided by 2 gives you 8 inches. So I'm marking down 8 inches here. Now I marked 7.5 on the shoulder. I'll go ahead and confirm if that is the width I have on the armhole line, and I realize it is not, so I'll go ahead and adjust this to 7.5, and now I'll connect this to the slope with a straight line. And I'll also rule an horizontal line on this point. Now moving on to marking our vertical measurements, I'll go ahead and mark my bust point. That's the first thing to mark. I'll place my tape on the shoulder, go down by 10.5. That is my bust point. So guys, I have gone ahead to provide the measurements you will need for this drafting, and they are going to be on the screen. So go ahead and look at what I'm doing and measure that on your own body and mark this down in your pattern. Now the next point for me to mark is my underbust. I'll place my tape on the shoulder, go down by 13.5 inches. That is for my underbust point.
I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright.
I'll label this out for you guys to understand that this is my underbust line. Now the next line for me to mark or point is my waist point. I'll place my tape from the shoulder, go down by 18 inches, and for this dress I'll be using 18 inches as my waist point. So that is what I marked on the pattern, and this is my waist line. So please make sure on your pattern you have your bust line, you have your underbust, and you have your waistline. Moving on to the armhole, I'll go ahead and mark the middle point on my armhole. And to do that, I'll place the tape like this. I have 8 inches. I'll fold my tape into 2 to get the middle point, and the middle point is 4. So I'll mark that. And for my 4, the middle point, I'll go in by half an inch. From this point, I'm going in by half an inch because I want to create the front armhole. Next thing for me to do is divide my round bust by 4 and mark that on the armhole line. So I'm marking that here on the armhole line, and my round bust divided by 4 is 9 inches. So I'm marking that here. Now I can create the curve for my front armhole. So I'll bring in my curve ruler, and then I'll connect the point from the half an inch on the middle point. I'll connect it to my armhole measurement, and then I'll connect this to the slope.
back a year ago.
Next thing for me to do is mark the darts. So marking my darts, I'll place the tape from one nipple to the other nipple, and whatever number I get, I'll divide by 2 and mark this down on my pattern. So my nipple to nipple is 8 inches, divided by 2 gives you 4, and I'm marking 4 on the bust line, I'm marking 4 on the under bust line, and I'm marking 4 on the waistline. Our rule is straight line, and this is going to be the apex line. That's the nipple to nipple. Now from the waist, I'll mark 1 inch on each side of the apex line. I'll mark 1 inch here and 1 inch here. So this is me marking the dart legs, 1 inch on the side and 1 inch on the side. So I changed the marker because the red was not working. Now I'll move to my bust line. I'll come down by 1 inch. I'll place the tape on my bust line. I'll come down by 1 inch. Now I can connect the 1 inch to my dart leg on the waist. So I'll connect to this point and I'll connect to this point. And that is how you create your darts for the front bodice. Very simple. So if you're a beginner, you've gotten to this stage, so you're already good. The next thing for us to do is divide the round measurements, and the first measurement I'll be dividing is my bust. And since I already have that indicated on my armhole, I'm just going to bring down the line like this. So remember, we marked that on the armhole to create the curve, so I'm just going to bring down the line like this. I'll move over to my underbust line. I'll divide my underbust by 4, and I'll mark this down on the underbust line. Don't forget to replace your darts. So what I'll do right now is place my tape on the darts, find out what I have there, and I'll replace that back on my measurements. So please do not forget to replace your darts. Now move over to my waistline. I'll divide my round waist by 4, and that is 7.5. I'll also replace the 1 inch that we marked, that's 2 inch. We'll mark 1 inch on each side, making it 2 inches. So I'll replace that back, and now I'll connect all points together. So if we were creating just a bodice with darts, you're good. You've gotten to this point, you're good. So the next step for us to do now is to create the pattern for our top part of this dress. So we're going to be creating that from our bodice with darts, and the first thing we need to do right now is place the tape from the bust to the under bust and find the difference. So this is my bust line. I'll place the tape, go down and place it on my under bust, and I have 3 inches as the difference. Now I'm just placing my tape on my apex line sitting on the bust, and I'm just going to mark 3 inches round that point. Make sure your tape does not move from that point. That's the point where your apex is sitting on your bust line. So once I have marked 3 inches round, I'm just going to make a circle. It does not need to be perfect, but girl, just try to get a circle or something close to a circle, okay? So now I have my circle. The next thing I'll do is on the underbust line, I'll go up by 2 inches. So this is the underbust line. I'm just placing my tape here and going up by 2 inches. I'll blend that line back to my circle. I'll just use a curve ruler to blend this back. Now you don't necessarily need a curve ruler. You can use your hand to do this. If you know how to make dots, just create dots. Once you're satisfied, you connect the dots and you'll get your curve. So I tried using my red marker to make this different, but it turns out that all my markers were all dried up, so I'm using the green. Now I'll move over to my bust line on the side. I'll mark 1 inch out. I'm marking 1 inch out from the circle. And now I'll connect that 1 inch back to the circle, like to the curve. So I'm using my curve ruler also to do this. You don't necessarily need a curve ruler. You can do this with your hands, your free hand. So just go ahead and be creative, girl. So I'm just going to blend the line back into the circle. And now I'll just connect the curve straight to the armhole. So I'm using my straight ruler for this. I'm just going to connect this straight to the armhole curve like this. So you can see the points I'm going to get to. I'm just going to connect to the armhole curve like this. And in any way, if you feel like your curve is not perfect, girl, just go ahead and adjust you. So I marked 3.5 inches neck width on the shoulder, and what I will do now is connect the 3.5 inch neck width, or connect it to these points here. Make sure your ruler is sitting on your 3.5 inches neck width, and now just go ahead and connect that to the point where we marked 2 inches upward from the underbust. And this is the neckline for the front. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, and you guys are going to be seeing how this piece is going to look.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago.
So this part is for my underbust, and I'm going to be cutting out the dart. But before then, let me cut out the bust part. Let me cut out the cup part with the shoulder. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the dart. I told you guys I will be doing that. So I'm cutting out the dart. And what I'll do is I'll use my tape to close back this dart, because when I'm cutting this out on my fabric, I'm not going to be cutting this in different pieces. They are all going to be one piece. So I'm just going to use my tape to hold this down so it becomes one pattern. And when cutting this on my fabric is going to be on fold, and this is just going to be one pattern. So it's going to be one piece. Step 3 is for us to slash and spread the cups. Now this part here, what we're going to do is place the tape on the shoulder and measure. I got 4 inches, and now I'll divide my 4 inches by 4. So I'll just divide by 2, and then I'll go ahead and divide by 2 again. And I got 1 inch. So what I'll do is mark 1 inch apart on the shoulder. So the first point 1 inch, the next point 1 inch, the next point 1 inch. So 1 inch apart, 1 inch here, next point 1 inch. This is going to help us spread this pattern. I'll use my ruler to rule this line straight down to the cups.
The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.
So once I have this sorted out, the next thing for me to do is cut this out. Like, I'm going to be slashing this open, but when I get to the shoulder, I'll stop 1/4 inch into the shoulder. So don't cut this totally off, because what we are trying to achieve has nothing to do with the shoulder. So we're not going to spread the shoulder. What we need to spread are the cups. So when you get to the shoulder, you stop 1/4 inch in. Okay, as you can see, I'm slashing my pattern, but I'm not slashing to the shoulder. The shoulder is still intact. I'm just slashing the cups, and I'm stopping 1/4 inch on the shoulder. And this is what I have. I'll bring in a fresh pattern, and I'll be using this fresh pattern to spread the cups. So I just placed my pattern, my already draft pattern for the cups, on this fresh paper. I'll use my tape to hold down the shoulder so it doesn't move while I spread, and I'll be spreading this pattern by 1.5 inch. At this point, it depends on how much you want the gathers to be on your cups. If you want it to be more, you can spread by 2 inches, and if you want it to be lesser, you can use 1 inch. For me, I'll be using 1.5 because that is how much gathers I want. So after placing the first pattern, I'll mark 1.5 inch, and I'll place the next one. I'll use my tape to hold this down so it does not move. I'll mark 1.5 after this pattern, and I'll place the third one, 1.5. So what I just did is spread by 1.5 inch. I hope you guys are getting this. So if you want a lot of gathers on your cup, just go ahead and spread for 2 or 2.5. And now once I was done, I'll just go ahead and trace out my cups. I'm done spreading. I'm just going to trace this out. No need to rush. You just gradually do this. Take your time. Connect all points together to get your cup back, but this time around already spread.
I thought I would never be fine. I strive just.
And once I was satisfied with my tracing, I'll go in with my scissors to cut out this pattern. And we are done with the cups. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you know you're learning something new from this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you know you find this interesting, you find it easy, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Okay, so these are the pattern I'm going to be using for the front part of my dress. And now let's go ahead and create the back pattern. So step 4 is for us to create the back pattern. I already have my pattern drafted out to a point. I have my shoulder indicated, I have the slope, I have the bust line, I have the under bust line, I have the length. And before marking those points, I left 1.5 inch for the zip. So the first thing I'll be doing is creating the back armhole, and to do this, I'll place my tape on the armhole, fold into 2, mark the middle point. We did that on the front pattern, but this time around I'm not going in by half an inch. I'm just stopping at the middle point. Secondly, I'll go ahead and mark my round bust divided by 4 on the armhole line, just as we did on the front pattern. And once I have that done, I'll go in with my curve ruler to create the back curve. So this is the armhole curve for the back pattern. Next, I'm just showing you guys that before I started marking my points, I left 1.5 inch zip allowance, and you can see that a line is demarcating that from the main bodice. So now I'll go ahead to mark my chest line. That is the next thing for me to do. I'll mark my chest line, and that is 7 inches from my shoulder. You can see my tape is on the shoulder line, and I'm going down by 7 inches, and this is my chest line. Now we'll go ahead and divide the nipple to nipple by 2, just as we did on the front pattern, and we'll mark this down on all points. I'll mark this on the bust line, on the chest line, on the under bust line, and on the waist line. Your nipples to nipple is your apex line. And to do this, you place the tape from one nipple to the other nipple, divide by 2, and mark this down on your pattern paper. And make sure you're marking after the zip allowance. On my waist, which is the length, I'll mark ½ inch on each side of the dart line. So I'll mark ½ inch here, and I'll go to the other side. I'll come in like this. I'll mark ½ inch. And now I'll go to my chest line. I'll come down by ½ inch. Now I can go ahead and connect the ½ inch to the dart legs I have on the length. So I'll connect to this ½ inch, and then I'll connect to the other ½ inch on the other side. So this is how you create your back darts. Very simple for the beginners. Hope you're understanding. So the next thing for me to do is divide my round bust by 4 and mark this down on my bust line. So I got 9 inches, and I'll replace my darts. Now we have the darts sitting on the bust line, so make sure you measure and replace. So I just measured and I got ½ inch, and I'm going to be replacing that back on my bust line. I'll connect this to the armhole. I'll take it straight up to the armhole. And I'll move to my under bust line. I'll divide my under bust by 4, and I'll mark this down on my under bust line. I'll place my tape to measure for the dart so I can replace that, and I got ½ inch. So I'll be replacing that back on my under bust. I'll mark ½ inch. I'll move to my waist. I'll divide my round waist by 4. And I'll replace my 1 inch dart. Remember, we marked ½ inch on this side and ½ inch on the other side, making it 1 inch. So I'll replace back that 1 inch. And once I have all those sorted out, I'll connect all points together. Now that is done, we're going to go ahead and mark the neckline. Now remember, we marked 3.5 inches neck width on the front pattern. On the back, we're going to be doing the same thing. I'll mark 3.5 inches neck width. The neck width for the front and the back is always the same. And now I'll go down by 1 inch for the back neck depth. Just 1 inch. I'll come down by 1 inch. I'll connect both points together with a curve. So now I'll just bring out the line to the zip because we need to adjust the zip. So what I'll do is, adjusting my zip, I'll go down to the waistline, which is the length. I'll mark 1 inch. I'll also mark 1 inch on the underbust and on the bust line. I'm just marking 1 inch out, and I'll connect this to the 1.5 sitting on the shoulder, which is the neckline. So on the shoulder we have 1.5 for the zip, and then from the other points we just have 1 inch. So I'll connect and cut. You just saw me X this part we don't need. We're going to be cutting that out from the zip, and we'll cut every other part out. So cutting out the neckline, cutting out the shoulder and the armhole, and this is how you create your back pattern. So while you're cutting your back pattern on your fabric, make sure to notch your darts because you're going to be sewing that in. So please do not forget to notch your darts when you're cutting. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was easy and all was in steps. And please let me know in the comment section if you have any challenges. Let me know. If you don't want to send me a message on the comment section, you can do that on my Instagram. Don't be scared to communicate. I really appreciate the messages, and I'm glad and happy to reply you guys with solution if it's within my knowledge. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me from the beginning to the end, and thank you guys for 25k subscribers. Now for the skirt part of this dress, we're going to be making gathers, and the gathers we're going to be using our round waist times 3. Now this is the after look, and I love this outfit. I so love it. I decided to make my own length shorts, but apart from that, and also make my sleeve smaller. And yeah, apart from that, every other thing is the same. I love you guys so much. Keep being creative, keep being an awesome and beautiful human. I'll be seeing you guys on my next video. Please stay tuned and stay subscribed so you don't miss. And yeah, that is it for this video. Yeah, bye for now.
I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back a year ago.